Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Hello.
Marie, this is Geke, and we're both design researcher at STBY. And as was just told, STBY is the a research partner of the What Design Can Do Refugee Challenge. And what that means, research partner, is that we collaborated really closely with What Design Can Do in formulating the briefs for the challenge. And in these briefs, it was really important for us to trigger you, the creatives, to come up with relevant solutions, and creative solutions, bold solutions, but also make sure that it would be feasible solutions. And that was a bit our task in this challenge. And I think by now all of you probably heard about this challenge, and I think I want to quote Richard in how he wants to frame this challenge. It's about going from inspiration to activation, so our role was to activate you. And that's why we formulated these briefs, and these briefs really needed to activate you. And I'm going to quote also Dagan Cohen, with who I collaborated really closely in this, and he said to me during the process of formulating these briefs, if you put shit in, there will only be shit out. So we needed to make sure that we would put high quality in, so we would the solutions that would come up would be high quality.
So STBY is specialized in global design research, so that's a word you will hear a lot in this 10 minutes. You might be thinking, design research, isn't that what every designer is doing? And yes, of course, every good designer does research, and that's usually part of a project, and it's very important. But we are especially asked often to do the design research as a special deliverable that can be communicated also independent of the outcomes of the design projects, because it creates a shared reference point between all the parties involved in projects. And we'll be showing you a few examples of that in this presentation as well.
So yeah, what did we do? Design research need to trigger relevant solution. By relevant solution, we need that the solutions that needed to come out of this challenge needed to fit into the lives of the people we were designing for. And those were obviously the refugees. And as Geke just said, you as designer, you're very used to go deep into the lives of the people you're designing for, exploring their lives, exploring what are the pain points, what are really the needs of these people. But we wanted to give you a kickstart with this, so that's why we did this design research. And for us it was also important that the empathy that we would put into the research also needed to communicate to you. So of course we shouldn't start naive in doing this. There was a lot of knowledge already available about refugees and the problems they encounter. There are a lot of very clever experts, some of them are also here in this audience, that could provide us with some basic starting information. And what you see here is sort of the 8 themes that we started with. So we talked with the experts, we did a lot of desk research to sort of come up with the first categorization on what was important. But it wouldn't be design research if we wouldn't look also very closely to the lives of these refugees. So we also interviewed a lot of refugees and just asking them, tell us something important in your life since the moment you arrived here. What was a key aspect? Tell us a key anecdote. And these are all stories that we collected throughout the research. When we had collected all this data, so the desk research, but also the stories, we brought it all together. And you see here a picture of a co-creation workshop that we held together with experts, together with refugees, to sort of explore, okay, what should we do with this? And how should the briefs look like? What is really the relevant aspect that we should pick up? So we discussed that, and we discovered that we wanted to stay really, really close to this experience of the refugee and the phase they are going through in their lives. So these are the 5 resulting briefs, and you see them now mapped on a journey, and a journey might be a bit of a weird term to use in the context of refugees, but from the moment they arrive in a host country until they apply for asylum, they get to start a new life, apply for citizenship, or return to their country. And what you see on the top are the 5 briefs that we formulated, and you see that they fit in a particular phase of this refugee journey. So by doing this, we stayed really close to the actual experience.
So that, of course, in many projects we do for very different topics and different contexts. And it always involves to go out, spend time with people, and immerse themselves in their daily lives, and specifically, as Marie said, to identify pain points, because those pain points can be used as a shared reference points and understanding those everyday life experiences to then enable conversations between the stakeholders in the projects. And those can be designers, of course, but also other partners in the project, like client organizations or other partners who are collaborating.
Then, of course, it's important to have empathy with the people you're designing for, but we also had to have empathy with you. How could we trigger you to come up with the cool ideas that are in your head? How can we really trigger those creative solutions? And we approached it in a couple of ways, and what you see here is a lot of text. You don't need to read it all. But this is an example of a brief. And what you see is that we described the challenge, so we wanted to provide the context of the research we did, but also provide you with the opportunity. So little starting points that would trigger your thinking and trigger you think in a different way. But I think what is most powerful are these actual stories that we collected during our research from the refugees, telling to us what they were busy with or what they were thinking. And these quotes that you see here on the screen, these are really powerful and these are really inspiring. So this is really a strong starting point for you to start thinking, and that gives you a nice starting point. And all of this information was also part of the brief. So the stories that we collected, the powerful quotes that we collected, the interviews with the experts, these was all put in what we call the data pack, and this data pack was part of the briefs. And when you would enter the challenge, you would get that, and you could really immerse yourself, put yourself in the shoes of those refugees and see, okay, what is their life looking like? And of course, since we really strongly believe in the power of collaboration, we also did a couple of workshops. And in these workshops, we would invite creatives to come together and to think together. Because this multidisciplinarity that we're targeting in this challenge, going for architects, graphic designers, etc., it's really strong to put them all together and, let's create together. So we were lucky enough to do these workshops in quite a lot of places. We did a couple in the Netherlands, in the UK, in Switzerland, in Sweden. But of course, we cannot go everywhere. So the workshop pack was also made available online, so people could locally organize their own workshops. And in the workshop pack, you would find tips and tricks and a process to follow, some tools to use to help you think together.
So this, in many projects, is a role we play as design researchers to help to scope projects and to trigger ideation by building on the insights from the immersions with people, building on the insights to identify opportunities, and also to work with designers often, and we create materials which are engaging and inspiring, and that can be used as a shared reference point to communicate with other stakeholders as well. And often there's specialist designers involved in that stage, of course. So it could be product designers, service designers, interaction designers, architects, as you mentioned indeed.
And finally, we needed to trigger also realistic solutions. So you probably saw the whole media campaign around the challenge. We call for the bold, innovative solutions. But in the end, tonight we will announce the finalists. It doesn't stop here. It was not about coming towards great concepts only. We really want to implement those. So how can you trigger these realistic solutions? And one was just showing the complexity of the topic we are dealing with. In this refugee topic, and it's a bit weird to phrase it like that, I'm aware of that, but there are a lot of stakeholders already. There are a lot of people busy with the topic. There are a lot of people having various interests and needs, and you also need to take those into account when you're creating the briefs. And this is not only something that we try to communicate in the brief, that this is something to take into account, but it is also something that we actively called the creators participating in the challenge to think about. And what you see here is one of the tools that we used in the workshops, and it was also part of the workshop pack, wherein of course we asked, what is your idea, how is it going to help, but also how are you going to involve the people you need, and who do you need to involve in order to have this idea feasible. And I think in the end, the ideas that were selected, the top 25 that you see behind me, are really the ideas that sought for this win-win situation. That it's, of course, about improving the lives of the refugees, but also taking a look at all the other stakeholders that are dealing with it, so the local communities, and how are you going to create this win-win situation for them as well?
So also that aspect of design research is quite an important one, to help and contribute to triggering that it's realistic solutions that come out. And often that really needs a lot of critical reflection and orchestrating conversations between stakeholders, because you want to be sure, as Marie also stressed for the refugee challenge, to take all the viewpoints and knowledge of other experts and parties involved into account, because that all contributes to that you move on from the ideation and things really get implemented. And that's, of course, what you're after, because you want a real impact. So in that way, we've tried to make a combination of telling you about how we contributed to the Refugee Challenge as a design research partner of what design can do, but also to give you a bit of an impression of design research in general. So we hope that it's useful for you. And we are always in projects very aware that it's very important that it doesn't come in the way of the design process. So it's really to contribute and to spark, to trigger conversations and to create materials that can be shared between people. And we often notice in our work that it's really important there to find a good balance between structure and openness. So yes, we have research rigor to make sure that we draw out the insights and we build on it and we speak with the right participants, but it also needs to enable further exploration and ideation, and that's really important. So I hope this was useful for you. If you are interested in talking with us further, we're here the whole day, or get in touch with us. And we hope you enjoy the conference. And one more thing, a giveaway. We've just made a new publication on visual design research. It just come off the printer. We're still smelling it. And we took a few copies here. So find us and we can share.